Good afternoon, Abbotsford residents. I'm Mr. Pelican. I'm running for the mayor of Abbotsford. And it's well documented why to bring the RCMP in on the organized crime that lied in Abbotsford. A top elite politicians were covering and helping and lobbying over the community, rigging decisions, but the threat on my life and attempted murder and what the Abbotsford top did. The Abbotsford top police investigators figured if they let Mike Sir go for covering Henry's hit and run and everything he did, we'll be able to bury it and they'll stay on. This man left the city of Abbotsford because he was going to get caught with his son telling on insider trading the stuff Ed and Mike were doing. And rather than it go out to the general public so the RCMP and officials and all politicians could see, Henry Brown got in his car and he was going to shut my mouth and tried to kill me. He fled from the scene, and I want to make this clear. Top leading investigators of Abbotsford Police Department went to work for Henry Brown and Mike Sir to cover it up. Figured they blocked criminal reports, they threatened, then they would pressure me to get out of town. They would never be questioned, wrecking their bloody lives and everything there was. Then they figured they'd dump Mike Sir and they'd bring Colin Watson in here, and Watson would be the new changer in the guard, and that shit would do the damage. Let me tell you, Henry Brown tried to end my life. Then he used the Abbotsford police because they didn't know they were being watched. And them investigators thought they'd never be caught, they'd never be questioned. We're untouchable. Now they're gonna go for the ride of their bloody life, and there's no stopping it. I wanna show you something. This is Corky Neufeld. And again, he went with Amric Moran that the establishment's trying to load. Amric Moran, basically, you know, with everything they have done, they'll rig the Chamber of Commerce for the decisions for him. And the answers now, they'll block at UFB, the other candidates. They'll use Vicky Hopes to prop him up. And they'll probably, Alex Mitchell, who took over from Greg Tolles, will say to other candidates you can't bid. They went to the establishment, went to Amric Moran because they needed him, because Dave Sadhu now was gone as the South Asian vote. But Corky knows there's other candidates running, and he should not be doing that with these leading politicians and elected city officials. That's a conflict of interest doing it, and Corky won't stop. Because let me tell you why, Corky. Corky believes that Amric Moran has enough say in the South Asian community that he can hold this seat. Well, we're going to make sure the South Asians are aware of that. Amric Moran never helped Corky get elected, and he wasn't there. And now Corky repays all the South Asians, like Joe and everybody else, by figuring Amric's got juice. Well, we're going to see when that election comes if Corky Neufeld will be elected an MLA if he's got juice, or we'll take him out. I guarantee you, he's going to be out. Ask Mike Young, ask Simon Gibson, ask Mark Warkentine. And it's wrong. And Corky knows I'm running. And yet he's not stuck his hand out to take me to all these celebrity things because I don't want it. I work for the people and I'll be with the people. And I'll tell Corky to stick 2 fingers up his back, his side, instead of 1. I'm on the Abbotsford Flats. I want you to have a look out there, farmers. I want you to tell you what I learned from Wall Financial, Peter Wall, Tony McGill of Intertech, Cressy and all that. But I want to tell you Mike Dakota when I did the North Shore Pier. Mike of Ani taught me so much. I'm so grateful for Mike Dakota and the knowledge. You go to work, and as a young guy I worked with Mike, and I knew all the rules of hiding development signs, not to cheat and what could come. But Mike also taught me how to read drawing and blueprints. So the city of Abbotsford went and did this. They did a couple of little sketches of what they're going to do for the flood for the farmers. If you can read them blueprints, there's a couple of little red marks, and it looks like a duck was bleeding or a deer across a map. Peter Sparanese knew it's coming to a professional. I'll look at it. They want to take 1,000 acres, and they want to dig a pool, a big pool, bigger than Mill Lake, that they can catch the overflow of the excessive water coming from the Noosak. Now, let me tell you about that 1,000. They won't clean the ditches. They won't get the dikes and the stuff up, and they wouldn't get pumps. That is the way so they can defer the money away from the farmers and take it for themselves. we'll dig that big pond that they want, and then we'll make a little bit on the dikes. And we'll get all that money, and probably Jake's Contracting that took the 71 million and ripped the Abbotsford farmers off and then fled. And Eby hasn't even came out where the 71 million is. He's busy telling Trump there's not a chance in hell. I'm going to tell you, Eby, Jake's Contract ripped BC taxpayers off by hauling sand in and sand out, gravel in, gravel out, and the city officials in the back told on it so it could be video filmed. There's not a chance in hell that you're not going to have to come up with where that is, whether it's by the RCMP or not. And when Donald Trump's and them politicians see David Eby dumped that money in and it went missing like that and he's not asking questions, let me tell you what they're going to say. David Eby took that with Jake's Contracting. So you would have to clear in yourself, and you would have to throw Jake's Contracting under investigation so to prove that you didn't do it. And when Eby ain't doing that, the 71 million now, it must have went out, and we're waiting for Eby to say, you know, I'm stepping down. I'm going to go enjoy my money like Dave Sadu did. So what is this big pool? This big pool is a way to dig a hole on 1,000 acres. Who's going to give up 1,000 acres? Now you're going to bring bloody mosquitoes. Then you're going to bring birds and ducks and geese and that. And you're going to bring the avian flu. You're going to have shit and crap by all these animals in these barns and these birds and everything. It was stupid. It was a way to them to say, we got to get that money from Carney again, that money. So they were going to defer that money again out of the farmers' hands by coming up with this little shit old sketch of a map. And I was like, wow, they're going to really load their hands. So I saw that map and they're digging. I was like, this is ludicrous. This is ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous. Well, no, that's to catch the overflow. That's to seem to catch the overflow out of Colin Watts' backside. You go to Walmart and you get a diaper. And then they were going to show that they were going to do a little bit on the dikes because we want that money. What they were going to do is try to fool Carney again and get Brad Viss and say we're digging a big swamp and we're going to have a big man-made lake. Henry already gave that up. Darren Brown told me way back when he wanted to get the back of Barrowtown where Quadlands were, and he wanted to do it there and flood it. It was to get the overflow. That's what it was for. And it wasn't. It was to make sure that infrastructure money that Carney's got held up because he knew Henry was enriching himself, and he saw Bruce not advocating for the farmers or speaking for the farmers because it was going to go to Henry, and now Ross is, oh, I got to run again. Ross has got to call the election again. He's got 500 million that they want to move the ag processing plant with billions of farmers. So why you want to crash a building down for 500 million and leave all these and get the rest of them sit here? Because David Eby and Ross and them came up with a plan. If we move that ag center by UFB, we can scam the 500 million with our contractors. It's over. Darren Brown copped you all up on the jobs. He copped it all up. That's how you can find it on Dave Sadu and everybody else. And now they're going to try to fool Carney, so I want to make Carney aware of it. Here's what they're going to do, Carney. They're going to say, yeah, city approved it. Oh, we got the contractor. Henry's got him. He's ready. He's moving his excavators in to start the digging. We'll need to expropriate some of the farmers' land to the 1,000 acres to do this swamp. I want Carney to say, is that how desperate you were to get the money? And Carney to look at what Mr. Pelican's saying. Let me tell you to the Prime Minister of Canada. Henry Brown was blocking and stopping your MPs and other candidates from running in Abbotsford. And he was narrating it to his friends so they could be loaded. And you saw that when I flushed him out with Mike DeYoung. He almost went out and he had another heart attack. He even told Ed. And Ed had to throw behind, wrecking his conservative life by throwing behind Mike DeYoung because they needed Mike. Because if Mike gets in as a conservative, he would have been able to walk over and join the Liberals and say, listen, Carney, I'll give you a full mandate, which you got, but you got to give us everything Henry Brown's going for. And Pierre Poilievre had blocked him. He endorsed Suk Mangill over what Ed Fast said, Mike DeYoung, Henry Brown said, John Van Doggen said, and George Perry. So I want to make sure to my farmers, there's not a chance in hell that anybody under my mayorship is going to take 1,000 acres and start digging. and deferring that money out of your hands and taking it away from you directly having it. And I'm going to put that block there. And Henry told Ross, you got to run again, Ross. Ross, you have to run. I wonder how long it took his wife to figure out, Ross, the $500 million from the Ag Center you got to move by UFV, Dave's piece of property that's got you insider trading up to your bloody neck. And now you, oh, don't worry, Colin Watts and these detectives, they got no time to investigate that. They got to go out and pick up prostitutes. They got to go out and race Dodge Chargers. Colin Watts has got to get ready for his next photo op with Alex Mitchell. Colin Watts has got to get ready to do another press conference with his Abbotsford junk about gangs and the manipulation of gangs. Then you got Ron Funk, the Funkstermeister that's in trouble, and you need the Vaquero Ranch proved. All that, Ross. You better run, Ross. You got to run, Ross, hard. I'm asking Suki Dami, a well-known South Asian, to stand up and run for City Council. I'm asking Gurpreet Rai. And I'm even asking now, I think it's time for me to ask Eric Nival, you need to get out in Eric Nival, you need to run for council, you need to stop, you need to stand up. You were a major player of flushing Henry's stuff out of what he was doing up at Ledgeview and everybody. And you need to now be a voice for this community. But I'm asking one of the most ethical persons that I can think that has value, brings a lot to the table, and is there for all types of people, and that is Bardi Sandhu. Boy, did Bardi Sandhu go against the grain when Bardi Sandhu called out Sandy Blue of Abbotsford First, Ross Siemens, Kelly Shahal, Mark Warkentine, and all them, when they said they're going to try to frame Mr. Pelican, that I stuck these big hands up Sandy Blue's dress and grabbed her at the sports center on the Whipper Whapper. And they were going to frame me in sexual scandals so Ross Siemens could win. Boy, Bardi Sandhu stood up. Rhiannon Gasper, the MLA, and many other people said they planned that last night. This is how low Ross Siemens went. Then I knew Ross was in for organized crime. And I knew that Henry told Ross, look at you little punk. If you don't run with that little bloody face of yours and put that fake smile on, I'm going to get the Environmental Canada Fisheries of Oceans to go into mission and clean up your mess of your gas station you dumped everywhere in the swamps and everything, costing you and your dad bankruptcy. And you can see this. Ross's wife never comes out and says, Mr. Pelican and Abbotsford residents and the EDA and pastors of church, this is wrong against my husband. She knew what her husband did. She knew that when he covered the attempted murder, when he rigged Cooper's farm and all them signs were up there, when he used Dave Sandhu and used them for the election, she knew that. But I'm going to tell you, as much as they used Dave Sandhu, and they did that, now they rigged Dave Sandhu's piece of property to shut Dave Sandhu's mouth. And then they're figuring they're going to go behind Amric Moran. They figured that they had this town. So let me tell you how they had the town. There was no police here. The Abbotsford Private Police were owned and controlled by Henry Brown, Ed Fast, and Mike DeYoung. And they controlled the board, they loaded the board. This is why Mark Warkentine was on the board, then Henry was rigging everything. And it was all for the jobs and infrastructure. When Justin Trudeau saw my videos and I went into the MP's office in Burnaby, they knew to halt the infrastructure money and the flood money. Under my mayorship, I will be flying the farmers, and I will be taking the farmers to make sure that your application is directly in Carney's hands, that the money's got to come to you and not Henry and his friends. So I tell you, Ross, I take that little bloody map and I throw it away. And this is why the city manager, Peter Smaranese, quit. He knew as the manager that as a city manager, Dave Sandhu's property is illegal. It's insider trading. There was no longer a council or mayor here. It was business partners, and that will send you to jail. And he knew as the city mayor, as the city manager, he had to call it out and he would quit. I wonder how long before Colin Watts has to say, I'm out of here too. Because I tell you, Colin Watts, attempted murder, threatening a politician like your officers did, smashing cameras and phones. It don't matter what badge you're behind, what table you're under, or what rock you're under. I am going to rip you apart and your bloody officers so nobody ever stands beside them. And you're known around the world as the shit squad. I'm going to photobomb all their faces out so everyone in my community can see it, their families can see it, and everyone. And I want their wives to come home and say, you filthy buggers. You should have charged Sandy Blue and Ross Siemens for them sex charges. You blocked Mr. Pelican. I want them to see how obvious it is. And I want to hear Colin Watts and his great shit investigator say, listen, Mr. Pelican, we're going to have an internal investigation to save the company. Them times are done. It's over. No one in Abbotsford should be threatened when they're going to speak forward the truth, and they're going to speak forward on organized crime. They're going to help the law, and they're going to help their residents. This wasn't being done. We owe, and I must tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, we owe the Mission RCMP, men and women, a tremendous thanks for everything they have done. And they have allowed me and watched me and made sure I was well protected from drug trafficking and frame jobs by Colin Watts and his leading investigator that'll be on Monday morning under Colin Watts' table on his iPad checking databases to help Amric Moran. But they know that this shit was Henry's plan again to defer that money out of these farmers with no brains and thinking that if he came up with this plan and he got EB on board, he got Lana Pop-Up on board, he got everybody on board, he would squish Carney and say, now give me the money. I want to dig a hole. I need to dig a hole. Look at it. Not going to happen. Nobody going to get that money, and I'm going to stand here, and the only ones that deserve it are them farmers. And them farmers are going to get mediations. They're going to get a mayor that cares for them, and they're going to get MLAs that care for them, and they're going to get city councils that care for them, and they're going to make sure that Carney can walk his MLAs and his MPs freely here and run in an open democracy and not worry about Vicky Hopes, not worry about Greg Toes, not worry about Gabriel, electoral officer, taking his signs, and not worry about the Abbotsford police. We're just going to open it up like George Ferguson had it. I'm live, Abbotsford, British Columbia, Ted Dykeman and my farmers. This is what they were going to do, another one of their plans. And this is why they needed Mr. Pelican out of the way, because Mr. Pelican would open that map and say, oh, this looks like they're hunting on Oak Island. Look at Henry. He's got the pickaxe and shovel ready. Henry deserves to go before my Supreme Court, before juries, and the whole world watch him, along with Mike Sir, Ed Fast, and Mike DeYoung, that figured they were going to cover an attempted murder and rig in them positions and take advantage. Henry was leveraging that city with his son till his son told. I'm live, Abbotsford, British Columbia.